Welcome Capricorn to your in-depth monthly forecast for October 2025. I'm going to share with you first of all some of the big themes of the month ahead. Then on screen I'll share your event chart. Right at the beginning of October, that always provides an influential backdrop for the whole period. I'll then go through each of the key influences frame by frame to give you a really clear picture of what to look forward to. I'm astrologer Patrick Arundell. Thank you so much for joining me. If you've yet to subscribe to the channel, please help it to continue to thrive and do so now. But please also click or tap on the bell notification symbol. As you come into this month, Capricorn, the Sun is in the most elevated position of its entire journey through the sky in your personal year. And that's really an echo of what your sign is about, which is a contact to the world at large in a very realistic, physical way. The Sun is at the heart of our existence, so you get a chance to really be very dynamic when it comes to your goals and ambitions. And if those targets are really clear, because the Sun's in a terrific angle to Mars, in a very collaborative part of your chart, there's a great chance to take a giant step towards something you've been reaching towards for some while. But also later in this month, on the 21st, we have a new moon in your sector of success too. But it's quite complex this year. It's not quite as helpful as it might have been in past years because of the angle that it forges to your ruler, ironically Saturn, but also Pluto. But I also want to take you back to the early part of June 2025. Jupiter, the planet of growth and optimism, moved into your sector of relationships. Now, ordinarily, once every 12 or 13 years, as Pluto comes to the end of its cycle and revisits that sector of relationships for you, that's a great chance for you to revitalise this key part of your life. But the second irony is that it's squared off with your ruler Saturn, which was exact on the 15th. So I don't feel that necessarily some of your relationship hopes have been met since then in the way you may have expected or the way you may have been told. But what I can tell you is later this month, Jupiter does forge an incredibly exciting angle to the triple irony, Saturn. So I can't wait to share that with you. But just before I go into that, I want to share with you about my unique offer. You can order your personal natal forecast for year 2026 now, and I'll give you the rest of this year free. But also you'll get 30% off the individual prices, and you'll get your life roadmap report in my special package. That really helps you to understand the patterns that have played out in your life so far, all of us. It's totally unique to each person, but understanding those patterns and matching them to the forecast will help you to make your moves in the new year much more shrewdly. But also in my special offer, you'll get your free general zodiac forecast for each of the 12 signs, but also your Chinese forecast, your Vedic forecast, and your love forecast too in my special booklets. Please see the link below for more. So on the screen now is your event chart. You can see that your ruler Saturn is right at the root of the chart. It's pretty close to the fourth house cusp. So communications with people like siblings, neighbours, people in your community that has an impact on your emotions is going to be a big part of the story for you right through to the middle of February next year, when Saturn makes its way back into the sign of Aries. Those strands can still be important, but that really primes up a 2.25 year period when anything to do with where you live, perhaps changing your home in some kind of way, adding to your family, those are going to be important strands. But as you come into this month, your everyday communications are really very much to the fore. But if you look at the position of Jupiter, like I just mentioned, it is in your sector of relationships, which, on the face of it is very hopeful. But if we look at Mercury, like the Sun, it's in a very elevated position. If you are applying for a job, or you're having an interview, or doing a presentation, just be aware with the moon in your sign, 19 degrees, in an opposition with Jupiter, and in a T-square back to Mercury, just don't go beyond your normal way of approaching things, which is to be very thorough, very diligent, but you don't usually overgild the lily. And if you are tempted to do so this month, particularly if you are trying to, gain some traction in the situation, I don't think it's the best for you. So what I would say with that aspect, particularly between Jupiter and Mercury, it's a square, but it's one of those squares that can give us a bit of swagger, a bit of extra self-confidence. The moon in your sign is going to make you much more conscious of what you want as an individual. But essentially, because the moon's coming out of a square to the sun, which brought the cosmic curtain down on September, your need to be an individual might not quite chime with the expectations of someone that you need to support your hopes and goals. So that maybe that if you're wanting to make progress around those professional hopes, you might have to compromise somewhat from everything you want. So having realistic expectations and also not offering to do too much for what the value of your services are is going to be a big thing, even if your goals and ambitions can really take a big step forwards this month. Now, I mentioned in my introduction that the Sun and Mars were in a great relationship. It's semi-sextile, 30 degrees. It's not quite there. You can see Mars is just under 6, so it's about 2 degrees apart, so it's not bad. And that's very, very positive. If you can combine ambition with collaboration, that's something that can work well for you. So those are the starting positions for you. And on the 6th of this month, Mercury moves from that very dominant 10th house. For some Capricorns, you may even be thinking about retraining, changing your role. Maybe you've gained a lot of life experience, but maybe the sector you've worked in has changed because of technology, or different demands have dropped off, and you may find yourself thinking again and using lots of different experiences you've got, but in a fresh way, and that's a very positive thing. But then Mercury moves to join up with Mars, not exactly initially, by moving into Scorpio, and scrutinizing your friendships, your connections, and forging shrewd ones will be a big part of the developing story of this month. But on the 7th, we have a full moon, and it's a full moon in the 4th house for you, but in the fiery Aries. Essentially, it's a full moon that's saying, however much you're going full bore for some kind of big goal, you need to stay in touch with your emotions, but you also need to make sure that your support structure can support whatever it is you're aiming to achieve. On the 13th, however, Venus provides a tremendous fillip for you. It moves to replace Mercury at the very top of your chart. Your ability to get on with people in a personable, reliable way is really going to come back to you. You may feel at times that you don't necessarily get quite the recognition that your talents deserve, but I think what people do see with you is how hardworking and diligent you are, and the way you connect with people, because Venus gives you some extra diplomacy there. That can be very, very helpful in terms of boosting your goals right through to November the 6th. So take that. But it also, Venus forges an immediately positive link to Pluto in your sector of everyday money, but also to Uranus, which is pushing you to revolutionize your approach to your everyday life structures. So some very good news can come in for you at the heart of this month. Also, Pluto goes direct on the 14th. If you have been treading water a little bit about your income since early May, not a complete surprise, things can thrust forwards. 15th to the 26th sees Mercury moving ever closer and then going beyond the position of Mars. They meet on the 20th exactly. That's going to be a key day in this month. Mercury and Mars, when they're together, can make us a bit impatient about expressing our ideas, but we can certainly express them with conviction, authority, enthusiasm, and thrust. And if there's something that really is burning in you, a passion, you can articulate it very, very potently at that time. The new moon on the 21st is a chance to continue to raise your profile, but it's a complex new moon and it does clash with Saturn and Pluto. What I'd say with that new moon is that if you're keeping things steady, you're keeping your expectations real, it can be an asset. Neptune returns to Pisces on the 22nd. It left on the 30th of March. It's connecting again with your ruler Saturn, which came back into Pisces on the 1st of September. Neptune can be very much about subtlety, really. It can be very expressive, it can be very mystical, it can be about spirituality. It's moving back into your sector of words. Saturn can make us a bit inhibited in the third house, but it also makes us real. I feel what Neptune does, in a way, it softens Saturn's coolness and brings a little bit more simpatico, so don't see that as a bad thing. On the 20th, however, we do have that burnishing Mercury-Mars conjunction, followed soon after by the 23rd, the Sun making its way into Scorpio. The great thing about the Sun making its way into a water sign is if you think about the bottom of a river, the basin of a river, it's earth and you're an earth sign. But water flows through it, so you conduct water well, they go well together. So for you, the Sun moving here is about your friendships, it's about your long-term plans, it's also about your idealism to a degree. It's coming on the back of that Mercury-Mars conjunction, but what it does do is come into a crunching right angle with Pluto. If there are people around you, perhaps friends, perhaps business associates, who don't share your vision, it could really show up at this time. There could be quite a powerful clash of wills. Just know that it is important to have that idealism, but your great gift is keeping it real. A balance between the two is going to be the secret to success. And in the latter part of this month, whereas Jupiter and Saturn, Jupiter is about hope, but it's the greater benefit. Saturn is about restriction and it's the greater malefic. Remember, they clashed on the 15th of June. In the last week of this month, they align beautifully, but along with Mars in that sector of collaboration. So though there may be some people who make way, there can be other people you become aligned to in a much more committed manner. And the thrust that goes with that towards the end of this month can be amazing. But I do think Saturn being in your third house does require you to choose your language with care. It's not to say that you're going to be deliberately unkind or unpleasant, but Saturn here over the last couple of years has been asking you to work at understanding the emotional vibe of the host of Pisces. So if you can get a mix between conveying a message but staying in touch with the feeling side of it, that's a winning formula. So something that just seemed very inhibited and out of reach in the middle of the year, in June, could come to pass in the latter part of this month, and it may be to do with a big goal, ambition or hope you've got, but I think collaboration is going to be important. But the key is that you need to be collaborating with exactly the right people, otherwise some tensions may be manifest. If you've yet to watch your year 2026 deep dive forecast, Capricorn, please click on the link within this video. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a great October. All the best and goodbye.